And it is 7:30. So, good evening and welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Ossining regular meeting for Monday, June 21st, 2021. Please rise. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
Councilmember Shaw?
Present.
Councilmember Meyer?
Present.
Councilmember Wiltshire? Not here. And then Supervisor Levenberg?
I'm here.
Okay. We have a public hearing today on the proposed community development block grant application.
So, as mentioned, first on our agenda this evening is a public hearing on our proposed community development block grant applications. As we have discussed at a few public meetings, our applications this cycle will focus on Lewis Engle Waterfront Park. Before we open it up to the public, I'm going to ask Victoria to share the final budget and scope on the screen and to review for the board and members of the public.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so yes, as we discussed at our last town board meeting, the primary project that we're applying for is to really relocate the bathrooms at Lewis Engle Park from where they currently are in the middle of the park towards the southern end of the park where we get more use with the spray park, playground, and hopefully one day the beach area. So we had our consulting engineer, Dan Ciarcia, and our recreation superintendent, Bill Garrison, help us develop these numbers. So we have the budget together for tonight's public hearing and the resolutions later on in the agenda. For the first phase, which involves basically setting up the site for the new bathrooms, laying the foundation, modifications for electric service, water and sewer connections, and surrounding site work. That's about $145,000 that we're going to be applying for in year one, which is for 2022. The CDBG program requires a 50% match, so the town's match would be $72,500 for that project. Then the second phase would happen in where we'd be applying for in 2023 to purchase and install the new prefabricated restrooms, which the restrooms will be about $500,000 themselves, and to tie in the electrical, plumbing, and demolish the existing building once the new one is installed, plus a little bit of contingency is our most expensive project at $575,000, town match at $287,500. $287,500. Then our remaining two applications that we're going to be submitting for year three, which is 2024, is to fix the fishing piers and expand them so that they connect to one another at Lewis Engle Park. And that project is estimated to be $300,000, which with $150,000 the town matching. And we're also going to be applying for a new smaller restroom at the north end of the park to accommodate events like the fireworks where you can't get to the southern end of the park, and also the various uses at that end of the park. And we estimate that project to be $150,000 with the town matching $75,000. So all in all, we're looking at $585,000 of a town match over the next 3 years. And this is also assuming hopefully we receive all the funding requests that we are going to be submitting to the county. And this is what is before the board tonight and the public in this public hearing.
And I just wanted to make mention also that I'm 99% sure that that is not just a cash match, that some of that is accounted for by in-kind service. So in other words, if our town parks department is able to trench and lay wires and make any of these sorts of connections, which they are going to be able to do quite a lot of that, we can apply the cost of their labor to our match. So that's not all going to be cash match. As you might think about it, it would be again in-kind match. So
can I talk a little bit about it?
Sure.
Spent a lot of time with Dan on this. So the key is that we already have the electric out to the guardhouse, and that's a big deal because where this building would sit, we would tie into that existing electric panel, which is a new panel. from the old bathrooms to the guardhouse. So that is really, it's feasible and it's cost effective. When we originally looked at the spray deck at the pool at Ingle Park years ago, we could not get power from Con Ed off the poles. So the limiting factor of that building, electrical wise, is going to be based out of the guardhouse, but we should have plenty of power in that guardhouse to do the whole job. So we went through all the calculations. We pulled all the manholes. We followed all the sewer lines from the existing infrastructure, and this looks really doable, these numbers.
And just to refresh everybody's memory, the reason that we think that this would be a great deal of help is it would basically eliminate our need to have porta potties down there, which no matter how much we try to stay on top of the companies that are supposed to sanitize them, it doesn't happen to our liking. And the other piece of that is that the comfort station where it's currently located is sort of like smack in the middle of like the prime real estate of our park. And by moving it to the southern end of the park, it not only helps out the sort of that busier end that gets a lot of need for bathrooms with the 3 picnic areas, as well as the spray pad, as well as the playground. So all the little kids and families tend to be down there, and then other people would have more space to spread out, and we would have more space for events and event goers in that other area outside of the stage, without taking up all that precious space with a big bathroom in the middle of it. Are there questions from the board before we open it up to the public for the public hearing?
Just one thing you mentioned for kids and families. I don't believe the current restrooms down there have changing tables. So if we could have changing tables on the new bathrooms, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Noted by moi, and I don't even have little babies anymore. Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop sharing. And then also I just want to reiterate, because we mentioned it last time, the new facilities are going to be out of the 100-year flood. Our engineer has, cited these new facilities. So on that end, we are hopefully in good shape as well.
Okay, and we were just, I don't know, but our CDAG, Honorable Richard Wishney, former town supervisor, former county legislator, and currently Commissioner of Emergency Services.
Correct.
Woo! Phew. I didn't even have pen on my cheat sheet. Is with us this evening. He is the CDAG, stands for Community Development
Advisory Group.
Advisory Group, member representing town of Ossining, and he basically signs off on the applications before we send them off to the county. So we're very happy to have you here for the public hearing. We just went through the budgets. We heard from Andy, who's been working with Dan Ciarcia on some of the engineering aspects of moving the bathrooms down to one end of the park. And hopefully the next round, the third go round, would be improving and extending our fishing piers, and finally adding another small bathroom / kiosk to the northern end of the park, closer to the corner, I guess you could say, that's nearer to the Boat and Canoe Club, but not right there. Okay, so I think unless there are any...
I have one question for Andy. Are we going to have, or Paul, are we going to have any problem with stray electric from the tracks with this new bathroom design? The way we would have with the spray park that we were trying to do, the recirculator we were trying to do?
If we ground it correctly, which I'm sure we'll incorporate in design, we'll be okay. That is a good question. One thing I did want to let everybody know is that the Boat and Canoe Club, how the existing sewer ties in from the sewer lift station at the Boat and Canoe Club into that infrastructure. We followed that back, all that piping. So we wanted to make sure that we were not missing anything. But stray electric, I'll talk to Dan about, and I'll ask an electrical engineer too. So I don't see it being an issue if we ground it correctly.
Okay, thank you.
right, so are there any other questions from the town board? Otherwise, I'd like to open it up to the public for this public hearing. No further questions? Okay, so if there's anybody here from the public who has questions or comments on the community development block grant application that we're proposing to submit, if you would raise your virtual hand. I always forget what the way is to tell people to do that if they're calling by phone, but I guess we don't have anybody. So if you just want to raise your virtual hand on screen, and we will let you in and let you speak. Give a few minutes. Always very happy to have our public in attendance. So looking forward to hearing if you have any comments on community development block grant. Just to remind everybody also that we have the opportunity to apply for, is it up to $1 million total? And that's over the course of the total 4 applications over 3 years with a 50% match. And doesn't mean we're gonna get it, just means that that's like the maximum. Lots of times we apply for the maximum, we don't get it, we understand, and we will adjust accordingly. So with that, I will also ask our CDAG, Richard Wishney, if you have any questions or anything that you wanted for us to address.
Not at this time, thank you.
All right. Any other comments from anybody on screen? If not, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Great, thank you. And I'd also ask for a motion to adjourn to work session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so our work session topic this evening is a letter to the Town of Cortland Planning Board regarding the proposed Hudson Wellness Project. It was brought to the town board's attention by some residents of Crotonville that the Hudson Wellness Project in the town of Cortland, which had been dormant for some time, is now back before the planning and zoning boards. Due to the fact that the project is located in the Indian Brook watershed and is in close proximity to the town of Ossining, the town and village both were interested in diving a little deeper into this topic, and actually reached out to Andy Teese, our water superintendent, to take a look at it. And he's been working with the engineers for the, I believe, for the new water filtration plant to look at that. Is that right, Andy? Am I getting that?
Yep, it's very close. We're working with, we received information from Arcadis Engineering, who designed the spillway for our reservoir, who actually had all the baseline information for all of the watershed. So we knew right away how this project would affect us, which was nice. It was
right.
It was cost effective.
So that was very helpful. And then when we started to take a look at that, the village also became interested in what the potential impacts would be on the Ossining, on our Ossining residents, on our water. So Village of Ossining Corporation Council Stuart Kahan drafted a letter that would be co-signed by both municipalities if we were all on board, which has now been reviewed by our council to the town, Christy Tamdana. And I don't know, Christy, did you want to add anything before we open it up to the board for discussion of the letter?
No, I mean, you know, the issue is substantively, excuse me, laid out in the letter that was circulated to this board. And so like you said, the intent is to have it be sent on behalf of both municipalities. So this is an opportunity for the board to review the letter. And if you have any comments or issues you would like to see raised that you don't see raised or modified, this is just an opportunity to do so. What I will also say is that I understand from the supervisor that there were additionally comments raised by members of the public who live in the Crotonville area regarding the impacts of traffic and specifically truck traffic and weight limits on, I believe it's Croton Dam Road, which may be more of an issue that's specific to the unincorporated town, or North State Road, I'm sorry.
No, I think it's Old Albany Post.
Old Albany, sorry.
It's okay.
So the question, I guess, is whether the board would want to also separately submit comments regarding that issue as well.
So with that, I'll just open it up to my board colleagues. If anybody had any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas, etc., to discuss regarding the letter that was circulated. I think that, you know, it's important that we do let the planning board know that this is a concern and that they should consider where they're going to be citing different pieces of the infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, et cetera, that has the potential to negatively impact. And, you know, meanwhile, we're working with all of these neighboring municipalities on this overlay zone that's also supposed to be protecting the watershed. So all of these issues kind of are coming up at, you know, at the same time in the same sort of way. We want to make sure that we're not going to start seeing any kind of negative runoff or negative or, you know, septic leaching or anything else that would impact. I don't know, Andy, if you wanted to comment on any concerns that.
Yes. Yeah. Like what really was flagged to us in the design that they proposed was that they were putting the septic system on the closest side of the watershed. Whereas if it was designed to be on the other side of their property, it wouldn't have influenced it as much. So there's a lot of issues that they have to look at, like if it does move forward, but obviously that's my biggest concern, the distance from the reservoir and from the actual watershed.
Are you, town board, interested in making any other comments? Questions for Andy?
Andy, do you have any other concerns? I mean, the amount it draws, the amount, you know, the runoff from the impervious surfaces, any of that?
Yeah, Paul and I would want to see their stormwater plan, their SWIP, the stormwater plan, how that is going to be, if it does go through, what's the actual plan during construction? What does the stormwater look like after? Obviously, we can't have any erosion. So it's a good question. You know, turbidity and erosion going into our reservoir to a point where, you know, it could affect the water quality. So the stormwater is something that needs to be looked at, but biggest issue is the sanitary. I mean, that's always a concern.
So I think that this is a good strong letter, and I think it's strengthened by the fact that two municipalities are both impacted and that we work on signing something that we're all comfortable with. So if you have any other further comments, you know, feel free to share with me. Otherwise, we'll let the village know that we're good to go and we can get this letter out the door. And go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just really glad we're keeping a close eye on this. I think it could have very detrimental effects. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if everybody recalls, but I actually did attend Portland planning board meeting some years ago about this exact topic to share with them what our concerns were. So then I think that it was kind of back and forth between the zoning board, the planning board, it was in court, et cetera. So, you know, again, it's coming back around and we don't exactly know what the time frame will be like, but it's important that we let them know what, you know, what their neighbors are thinking.
It was in litigation for a while. There was an interpretation issue before the zoning board in Portland as to whether it was a permitted use. I believe that litigation is still pending at the appellate level, but as it says in the proposed letter, an application made by the group challenging it for a stay was denied. So the applicant is allowed to go forward with the application process if they want to.
And then the other question that that Council O'Connor raised was the issue of traffic and that road. So I think we should send a separate letter about that. Even though our engineer has looked at it, I don't necessarily know that we were thinking about specifically just the construction traffic. And I think that's kind of what the issue was, that the impact on that small road that gets so much use by trucks that are oversized for the area is really a negative impact to the community.
Do we think that could lead to more runoff if they're doing construction in the winter time, as far as salting of the roads for the trucks?
Theoretically, yes, it's a good point.
Paul, you want to talk about that or no?
Sure. Oh, Paul, did you say Paul? Yes.
Paul.
Yeah, the question was the salting of the roads for the vehicles to go to the site during construction and post-construction, I imagine. I think that would really be applicable to any time you put salt on the roads near a reservoir, not just here. I know New York City has some pretty significant restrictions on salting near their reservoirs, and that's a good idea. It's something that we could think about with the communities that are surrounding our reservoir watershed, that being Newcastle, Yorktown, and Town of Ossining.
It's a great point, Councilman, because we test our sodium levels, in our raw water at the filtration plant every day. And, a heavy winter, we do see the sodium levels go up. So without a doubt, it does affect us. So, yep, good point.
And do you think it was Councilman Myers?
The councilman. Yeah, and the fact that most of the trucks will probably go through Crotonville is important, so.
Correct. Okay, so we will, go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. Since Andy brought it up with regard to their notice of intent filing that they're going to do about their stormwater, something that has happened on various projects in my time here relative to the Indian Brook plant and go on around the reservoir parcel. We have to make sure that, and this is what really reinforces the concept of the letter itemizing all these things, we have to make sure when they're required to send out their notices to impacted entities and adjoining parcels that, the village sometimes doesn't get that because they'll send it to either the town or even though the village has an interest because we have the village-owned parcel within the town. So we'll definitely stay in close contact for that. And I think that everything we should do with that interaction should be in concert with the village, if not together with the village, to kind of reinforce our positions that they're unified.
And that's a good point, because we have heard from some of the neighbors who've been attending some of the meetings that that the planning board have been leading them to believe that they're in constant regular communication with the town and the village. And I don't believe that that's the case. I don't think I've received anything from Portland for quite some time on this project. So I think, if we can reiterate in the letter that we want to make sure that both town and village continue to be made aware of any potential impacts to the watershed that were involved, like you said, that would be important. Anybody else, or Council Tomadani, did you have any other further advice?
Those were the only issues that had been brought to my attention. The town was planning on doing a letter until we learned the village was going to be doing it. And for all the reasons that have been mentioned, it makes sense and makes it stronger for both municipalities to do it together. So, we can see if the village wants to also include the issues with traffic and truck traffic in their letter. And if not, the town board can do its own letter.
Okay. All good? Town board?
But it seems like we're at the point where, information still needs to be obtained in order for, you know, the technical experts to be able to reach a decision on whether they think there are going to be impacts. So there very well may need to be subsequent correspondence once Andy and Paul get that information, and Dan TRC if that's necessary, and have an opportunity to review it. But this is just really for notification purposes, as was mentioned, and to just make the boards aware of the municipality's concerns.
So, everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn back to our regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. So, a few announcements, I think, is what we're up to. Let me just double check. Yes. Tonight's meeting is on Monday instead of our regular Tuesday session because tomorrow is primary election day in New York State, and there is a Democratic primary for which our our town clerk and deputy town clerk must work as local liaisons to the Board of Elections, so they are not able to be in two places doing two important things at once, even with Zoom. Can be a lot of places at once, but that's very, very tricky. Polls will be open tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and registered Democrats can vote only at their designated polling place. This location may have changed from years past, so I encourage everyone to pop over to the Westchester County Board of Elections website, citizenparticipation.westchestergov.com, to use their Find Your Polling Place tool. As with every election, it is important to have the voting plan for primary day so that 9 o'clock doesn't come and go and then you say, whoops. Be sure to confirm the location of your polling place and plan when and how you can get there. If you requested an absentee ballot to vote in tomorrow's primary, remember it must be postmarked by tomorrow to be counted in the final election results. This weekend, I joined the Juneteenth Council of Ossining in their celebration at the waterfront. I was also joined by Councilwoman Feldman. The event was a chance to recognize this important holiday, which had been wrongfully ignored for many years across the country, and celebrates when some of the last enslaved people in Texas learned they were free on June 19, 1865, 2.5 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. New York State formally recognized it last year for the very first time, and President Biden signed legislation last week declaring it a national holiday going forward. This is just another example of how local grassroots movements can have an impact on a state and national level. It was great to celebrate this holiday, and the town was proud to be a co-sponsor of Ossining's celebration. Our staff also had off on Friday in honor of the holiday. Thank you to all the organizers of the event on the Juneteenth Council, Joy Chirac Cole, Diana Lemon, Joanda Dabbs, and Althema Goodson. We can't wait for next year. This past week and weekend marked graduation day for both Ossining and Briarcliff High Schools. Many graduation ceremonies, I believe. Congratulations to all of our graduates, including, I believe, yes, no, Jackie Shaw, did you have a graduate? Yes. Yes. Alexa Shaw is an Ossining High School graduate. It's official. And it certainly has been a challenging school year, so please take pride in all of your accomplishments, parents and teachers and administrators, and we're very, very grateful for everything everybody on staff has done to make this a possibility. This week will also be the last day of school for all students in the Ossining and Briarcliff school districts. I hope everyone has a fun and restful summer with some opportunity for summer reading and learning to start out the next school year on the right foot. And remember, everybody, schools are out, so please slow down when you're driving so we can keep everyone safe. Today is officially the first full day of summer, the longest day of the year. It does seem very long to me. It also is Make Music Day in Ossining. Mike and Miriam Risco have put together a fantastic lineup of musicians to celebrate. Concerts and performances popped up across town all day and will continue until late tonight. I did get a chance to see a couple this afternoon, one at the Riscos and one at the library, and they were two different genres, two different ages of performer, and they were both great. If you missed out but you want to get in on the fun, you can check out the final performance of the night at the Boathouse Restaurant this evening. The show's from 8 to 10. I believe it's an open night, mic night with the Riscos, and the first 50 people are going to get a free harmonica. Speaking of music, the town's summer concert series and food truck Fridays will begin at the Ossining Waterfront on Friday, July 2nd. Not with our traditional fireworks this year, but our concert series is going to kick off with a performance by the Thornwoods on the stage at Lewis Engle Park. Food trucks will begin serving at 5 p.m. and music starts at 7. So mark your calendars for the return of this Ossining tradition. We'll be sharing a poster with a full lineup of musicians, food trucks, and craft beverage services in a few days. Thank you to, once again, the Riscos for coordinating the band's lineup, Sing Sing Kill Brewery for organizing the inaugural year of our craft beverage corral, and the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce for lining up some great food trucks and helping with the publicity once again. Keep an eye out, help us share the poster once it's available online, and come have fun. This week, June 17th through the 23rd, is National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week. New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital has partnered with other organizations to host information sessions for interested residents. The virtual events for this week include HPV and cancer prevention, led by youth, Black women and breast cancer, get the facts, and Black men and cancer, battling the odds and reducing your risk. Links to register for these events are available on the town's website. New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital has been a great partner to the Ossining community in recent years. We'll be accepting a generous donation from them later on in the meeting, and this week's events are no exception. Local organizations are collecting donations now. The Ossining Padres Hispanos Resource Center on Spring Street is accepting donations for their food pantry. The Resource Center serves 200 local families. Food donations are vital for so many of these families, so please email OssiningPadresHispanos@gmail.com to schedule drop-off time. The Rotary Club of Briarcliff is sponsoring a drive-up and drop-off clothing donation drive on June 26th from 10 a.m. to noon. This event on behalf of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program will take place at the Briarcliff Youth Center. Contact Denise.Austin at F as in Frank, S as in Sam, w.org with questions. As the weather continues to heat up, our parks are getting more and more use, which we love to see. And I have to say, I could share some fantastic numbers about COVID. Vaccination rates are up to about, I think, 76% who've received a first dose. As of this past Saturday, we heard from the county executive earlier in the day on our bi-weekly call with the county executive. And that was fantastic news. So we're way, way up in the top ranks in New York State with Manhattan and Nassau County. And as that number keeps going up, and we want it to keep going up, we also are seeing lots more use of our parks. A couple of reminders about Engle Park. If you're hosting a gathering of 20 or more people at the picnic areas, please remember to get a permit. For more information about rentals of the picnic areas and other facilities at our town parks, please visit the Recreation and Parks page of the town website at townofossining.com. As hot as it is and as tempting, swimming is not allowed at Lewis Engle Park Beach because there is no lifeguard on duty. Yes, we are still working on that. We are doing some testing as we speak, so we hope that there's a possibility we'll be able to get a lifeguard at some point later in the summer if we find out that our numbers are good at the water in terms of the Department of Health's thumbs up. So we'll see. Instead, cool off at the Spray Park, which is open every day from 12 noon to 7 p.m. Starting Wednesday, June 30th and running every Wednesday until August 4th, the Spray Park and Playground area will be closed from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for summer camp use. So those are the only times that the Spray Park won't be open to the public. And finally, if you want to launch your boat at the Brian Johnson Memorial Boat Ramp, daily and seasonal passes are available for purchase online at www.buymypermit.com/Ossining. With a seasonal pass, you'll be mailed a sticker for your trailer, and your license plate will be permitted for parking in the trailer parking spaces near where you can launch your boat. Please note, daily permit holders are not allowed to park in the trailer spaces. Thank you so much for your cooperation. We hope everyone enjoys a lovely summer in our parks. I know everyone is enjoying all of these wonderful in-person events, so I have to give one more plug for getting the vaccine. If you've not already gotten your vaccine, yesterday was the time to do it. The Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps continues to offer vaccines. They were actually at the farmers market this past Saturday, as do many of our local pharmacies. OVAC paramedics are happy to answer any questions you may have about the vaccine, and I think they have all 3 of them right now. And they're also happy to help you find a convenient time to get vaccinated if you have a busy schedule. If anybody's homebound, they're also happy to serve the homebound who may still need a vaccine. Call 914-941-9196 or email covidtest@ossiningvac.org, that's VAC.org, for more information. OVAC also continues to offer COVID testing, which is a great resource for those who have not been vaccinated yet, especially young people heading off to camp or college. Another statistic that we heard from Westchester County today was after, I think, testing 3,300 people, I think there were only 23 positive tests this past week. I'm trying to look at my notes and see if I have that number, but it's much, much lower. Yeah. 3 total active cases in one day after testing 3,300 people. So 3 out of 3,300, that's a pretty good statistic. So things are looking up for all of us. And again, I think that's it. Do my board colleagues have anything to add? All right, well, in that case, we can move right into liaison reports. I did just get off the very beginning of the Rec Advisory Board meeting, and I heard a lot about a lot of trees that were planted recently. I think 80 at Nelson City Park, and that it is somewhat like a forest, and they have diapers that water them daily, water diapers. So they're getting treated very, very well. I know I've never heard of that before, but some little thing around them that's keeping them very happy in this heat. So we're excited about that. And trying to think if there are any other big, I didn't hear anything big because I started a little bit late and had to hop right off for this meeting. But I think there are, I think there's going to be an opening. There are a couple of staff openings. So there's a couple of opportunities, job opportunities available out there for anybody who's looking. I think they're looking for a new rec assistant coming up, and possibly another position or 2 that they're looking to fill. So good to know, and please do share with anybody that you know, especially people who might be bilingual, is extremely helpful for the Recreation Department. Any other liaison reports? All right, so we're going to move into departmental reports, and up first we have our Highway Superintendent and our Cemetery Superintendent. I hope you have both hats on this evening, Mr. Pete Connell. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Okay. So before we have been continuing our regular road maintenance, but we've done a lot of lift station, our sewer lift station upgrades, and keeping them operating efficiently over the last couple of months. The Parker Vale lift station was completely shut down on March 8th to unclog one of the pumps and to reset a pump mounting pad. Was a big project. It involved 3 vacuum trucks to bypass the sewage that enters that station normally during the day, and repairs were completed the same day. We have new standby generators just recently installed on North State Road and Parker Vale. They were put in service last week, and they are in service and operating. We also had a new electrical transfer switch installed at the Parker Vale lift station. This replaced an obsolete transfer switch. Transfer switch switches over to the generator when Con Ed power goes down automatically. So this is an important piece of equipment that we had installed. All of our lift stations were just recently cleaned by our outside contractor. We try to do that 4 times a year. Especially now with more people working from home over the past year. And we have new fencing on order for the Deerfield lift station. That fencing really needs to be replaced. The thing is, I guess, COVID related, everything is back ordered. So it's going to take a good 2.5 months before that material comes in. So at our highway garage, we undertook quite a large project, at least for us, with joint efforts from our highway and park/cemetery departments. We replaced about a third of our garage floor that was in very bad shape, broken up. And we had some new waterproof electric switches installed and outlets also. So it's a nice upgrade over here at the garage. I know leaf season is months away, but we received two new leaf boxes, which is going to be placed on our newer model Freightliner trucks. They're more dependable, and so we won't have hope, less downtime or no downtime once leaf season arrives. We also received and began using a asphalt crack sealing machine. It seals the edges of road patches, and that keeps water from getting in, and especially in the winter, lifts the patch that you just did a few months ago. So we're hoping that this is going to be a big improvement on our town roads, sealing our patches. We also received a new F-350 pickup truck with plow. We received that in March. And that's going to be used by Kevin Moore, our highway foreman. Our stormwater outflow inspections were completed, and the annual report was submitted. As our catch basins, all those were inspected, and repairs are continuing with them. We had quite a few on McCarthy Drive, on Morningside Drive, in anticipation of paving Morningside later this year. We get a lot of tree complaints, dead trees. A lot of them are on town property, so we have begun with our tree maintenance contractor to have them removed. And of course, the large project, the McCarthy Drive project, is underway. I'm sure Paul and Andy will have some more information in a few minutes on that. At the cemetery, the rehabilitation of the superintendent's cottage was completed in April, and that began in October, and we probably shut down for about a month when the weather really got bad. So come out very, very nice. It was a pleasure working with the architect firm and the contractor. Some interior work we're going to do rainy days and maybe later this year, and make it an even better building. The crew continues the regular maintenance at the cemetery, and we've had 43 burials so far. Again, a combined effort with the parks, highway, cemetery workers installed the new sidewalk in front of the superintendent's cottage just a few weeks ago with green concrete. So, and it's stamped concrete, and it's one of the first times that we've done it, and it came out very, very well. The guys looked into what they needed to do, and it's really an impressive job. It came out very good. So that's something I think we'll be using, especially in the parks later on as time goes on. So that's about all I have.
So big thank you. That's a tremendous amount of work that you've completed under your steady watch. And also I know we've had help from Andy, some of the sewer lift station and
absolutely,
and very appreciative. Paul for McCarthy, and I know we're going to hear from both of you on that. But Pete, you're doing a fantastic job, and we're so appreciative of all the work of your guys and the team in general. When everybody comes together, we just see so much great stuff achieved. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it is nice that the departments are coming together and getting the work done. It's a savings to the town too, and the results are there. So it's good when they come together like that.
Absolutely. Are there any questions for our town highway superintendent, Honorable Pete Connolly, before we move on to our other departmental reports? No? All right. No? Okay. Hearing none, we will go on to our dynamic engineering duo, Paul and Andy, who are with us tonight, Paul Fraioli and Andy Teese, for their departmental report. I know that we've been keeping Paul busy with the McCarthy Drive project, which has been long in the works, and we're happy to see that it's finally taking shape. So I did have a chance to walk out there with Andy and Paul about a week or so ago, and I think probably a lot more has happened since then. So maybe you can give us an update, whichever order that you want to, the two of you.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor. So I don't recall when I was last in front of you all at a meeting. So if I say some things that I said at the last meeting, excuse that. But just for the benefit of the public, I could do a quick chronological recap of the project before we get into the details of the schedule. We opened the bids at the end of the year, last year, on December 29th. The bids range from $2.4 million to $5.5 million. Remember, this has a village component, so part of that money was going to be funded by the village's water fund. The low bidder on the project was Montesano Brothers, and POs were issued after a town board resolution in the amount of $1.8 million to Montesano for the town's portion of the work, and approximately $600,000 plus or minus, because I don't have that one in front of me, for the village's portion of the work, which is basically the water main and the work associated with the installation of the water main. Again, reiterating the overall scope of the project, after the town board decided to proceed with reconstructing the entire road, we defined what that would include. It includes drainage throughout the full 1,800 linear feet and connecting that drainage and associated retention to the existing storms water system on Incognito and the existing stormwater system on Stormytown Road. It also includes the replacement of a circa 1970s ductile iron water main that was installed when the road was first established, if you will. That has numerous breaks over the years, and we're looking forward to replacing that. A lot of those breaks, I think, were attributable to how the road was initially constructed. So we don't anticipate breaks, or at least many breaks, on that water main in the future once this project is completed. It also included some utility work which needed to precede the work being undertaken by the town. That work took place starting in early May, and they finished in late May, maybe a little later than we expected, but we kind of mobilized around that, around May 17th. We did some necessary tree clearing for the work that's going to take place, including the stormwater retention, which was the main clearing effort at the interface with the end of Incognito and the end of McCarthy Drive. I'll point out, because it was asked often, because we have done a lot of clearing and mobilization in that area, there is never the intent by this town board presently or in the future to make a vehicular connection between those two roads. Incognito was a cul-de-sac and will be reestablished as a cul-de-sac when we're completed. And McCarthy Drive, although it's not a formal cul-de-sac, will be a dead-end road with a widened turnaround area to facilitate the bus traffic that goes to the last building on that lot, and also makes it easy for residents to turn around in that area too, for themselves or when they have guests or when delivery trucks visit that area. The widening of the road also will facilitate safer parking for emergency access of fire apparatus or an ambulance. The status of the project today is that the temporary water line installation is complete and testing is underway. The village is actually doing the testing of that water to make sure it's safe to drink before we make that temporary water connection to the houses on McCarthy in our lab at Indian Brook. Those results need to get reviewed and approved by Westchester County, at which point the contractor will transfer over the temporary water lines to feed the houses on McCarthy Drive and decommission the existing water main, which is the first order of business on this project, the replacement of that water main. We also, to stay on track with our schedule, did some concurrent Stormytown drain work, and that's why you had the detours in place that we did for the last couple of weeks. But it really proved to be uneventful. There might have been some delay going through the area and very minor inconvenience, but very limited complaints. And the contractor worked around the rush hours and worked well with the residents there to get them in and out whenever they needed to. And that's also the goal of the project for the life. The goal of the contractor for the life of this project is to maintain access to everybody's house at all times. There might be minor days per individual house where you can't enter the driveway because of maybe some concrete work being done towards the latter part of the project or some paving work towards the latter part of the project. But for the bulk of this project, mail, garbage, and their own access to their own resident will be maintained throughout the end of the year, which is still the expected completion time of this project. I will add one thing. Well, let me tell you a little about the schedule first. I mentioned that the water main is going to start taking place as soon as the county approves the switch over to the temporary system. The drainage is already started, and the new water main installation and continued drainage is going to run concurrent until they get to a point in, and actually brought the schedule with me, so I'm just going to reference it now. They're going to run until the water main should be completed in August, and the drainage on McCarthy and Incognito is going to run through October. Then they're going to start the actual curb work and reconstruction of the road, including the catch basins there and the stormwater lines that are going to capture the stormwater through the end of November. And then towards the end of November, they're going to install the serpentine retention system in that aforementioned clearance that connects Incognito and McCarthy. That's all subsurface. It's going to be restored, and the two homeowners who are really showing extreme patience with the inconvenience that's being thrust upon them, I think are happy to date and will be even happier when we're all done. And that is going to be a vast improvement for not just those two houses relative to stormwater, but for the entire area for stormwater and stormwater quality, which is something Pete referenced earlier that they report to the DEC every year. DEC looks very highly on projects like this because it really does have a beneficial impact downstream where it discharges. It's not just all about retention, it's all about stormwater quality as well for the receiving stream. And then restoration and cleanup is still on course to take place before the end of the year, including the top course, but we'll see how that goes. One thing that I will mention before I turn it over for questions is that I will say we had a lot of back and forth when we were mobilizing about materials, when they were going through their submittal. There is definitely an uptick in material cost. And I'm going to say we're just getting under the gun here because we did a lot of negotiating, but the contractor's holding his price on a lot of material, and we're doing things to save money without compromising the project presently as we look at these change orders. As we look at these shop drawing submittals. And we're doing things to avoid change orders. Most notably, we're making some connections to this existing stormwater system. Pete is supplying some material for some broken pipe that was discovered at the connection we're looking to make for the stormwater system. And the contractor is going to install that. So little things like that really do help offset costs and help us stay on budget. So it's kind of like an all hands on deck project where the village is coordinating the water main, which is coordinated with the town road construction, and there's a lot of interface going on, most notably with the residents. They call often, but that's okay because it's a big disruption to that area. But so far so good. I don't think there's any issue, concern, or complaint that hasn't been addressed in a satisfactory manner to date, and that's the intent going forward. So that's the plan, and I open it to questions.
Questions from the board? I know that we, Paul and I communicate regularly, as do Victoria and Paul, when we do get messages. We did ask all of our residents and the neighboring residents, anybody who certainly gets the supervisor's update if they wanted to sign up for special email blasts. And we have been sending them communications when big changes are coming. And as Paul mentioned, he's been out to the site many times and talked with people one-on-one and given out a cell phone number. We're very appreciative of all of that. Obviously, there are definitely some utility things that do happen along the way, and do our best to mitigate them, but they're not always things that we can foresee. So just open it up to the town board for questions if you have any heard anything from any of the residents that you have questions about, or just general questions about the project.
Did you get it all worked out with the residents who needed to move their walls / decorations back or plantings?
There was a few residents that had issues there. I'm not sure which one you're talking about specifically. But yeah, all of the residents that needed their either landscaping or landscape detail or masonry details relocated will understand what's going to be done in the end to facilitate that. There was pre-construction video taken, so we know exactly what was there in the beginning, where everything sat, and we've talked to everybody, generally speaking, about where everything will sit in the end. But that part of the project isn't really going to happen for some time, which is the curb installation, where we really have to get into that business of interfacing with the driveway. The only reason we've interfaced there now is because we have the temporary water mains that run along the side of the road that we wanted to make a smooth transition for the people into their driveways. So we did bury them so they're not driving over a bump every day, and it maintains that pipe as well, because it is going to be in place all year.
But you did mention to me that, like, in some cases where they had, specific pavers or something like that, they've done their best to save those while they were going to bury the line, right? So
yeah, the one you're talking about, there was actually some pavers interfacing with the road. So we're gonna reestablish whatever paving detail she's looking to accomplish when we set the new limit, which is going to be established by the new current concrete drop curb.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And Mr. Fairley, anything else that you wanted to discuss besides McCarthy?
No, I think that's it.
All right, so we'll be talking about Morningside next soon.
Yeah, okay, well, since you opened the door, we did just last Wednesday adopt the annual bid contractors, really biannual. It's for 21 and 22 for contracting and materials and supplies. And we now have contractors who can do the work necessary, whether it's excavation or concrete or paving along the Morningside Drive corridor. And I intend to get with the superintendent to discuss his druthers there on to what extent he wants to do improvements, and we'll put together some purchase orders and discuss budgeting it with your comptroller and go from there.
We have discussed it. We have a couple of multimodal grants, and I do believe that we're prepared to move ahead with the plan using some highway funds and appropriated fund balance. Is that right, dearest comptroller, Dale Brennan? Do you want to make comments? Yes.
Yes, that is correct. So it'll end up being a plethora of different funding sources in order to even it out. But we additionally added, and this will come up when we have Rob come for our audit report, and a substantial amount to fund balance at year end last year. So those funds, this is the perfect way to use those funds. to put it back into our infrastructure and have it last us for a very long time. So it's a good project to put it towards.
Let me add one thing. Thank you, Dale. One thing for Pete. I reached out already last year when we were discussing it, but never really didn't receive a formal response for Morningside because I really didn't expect one because it was in the town and the person was only calling me about the village. But Pete, I'll talk to you tomorrow about confirming with Con Edison that they don't have any planned subsurface utility work that they envision in the next 5 years on that corridor, because as you well know, there's nothing more frustrating than utility work on a freshly paved road. So we'll look to avoid that and get something from them in writing, and hopefully that holds water.
Yes.
Great idea.
Okay, we certainly don't like that. So good idea. Yes, thank you for that. All right, and thank you so much, Mr. Paoli, and over to Mr. Teese.
All right, thanks. A big thanks to Christy for working with Dan Ciarcia on the legalese language for the Deerfield condos. We're going to be bidding sometime in the near future the water main that runs parallel to 9A, and we need to run a water main into the Deerfield condos. And because they're giving us that access, we're going to repave their driveway in total with new curbs. So they're going to be very happy with that project. One thing I did want to mention, well, I'm going to talk about the Nexus proposal whenever you guys want to for the community center, because I'm working on with
Sure. We're having a little hard time hearing you.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yes, it's just, I think you can move to and fro.
Okay. The Nexus proposal, we'll talk about at some point if you want to talk now or later, but the biggest thing I wanted to announce is that the water tank mixing project that affects the town and the village, that's coming to a completion in the next few weeks. So at Richard Wishney Park, the 4 million gallon tank will go back online within 2 weeks. The mixing systems were installed. It was originally designed because we had to reduce the trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids in the drinking water. And we'll be putting that system on soon. So, usually the numbers are higher this time of year. And the reason why we took the large tank out of service is because we realized that the large tank holds the water for over 10 days because it's not being mixed properly. So when that happened, the numbers were elevated. So immediately when we found that out 2 years ago, we put the small standby tank on and the numbers dramatically dropped. They were never above the MCL limit, for being safe or unsafe, but looking forward for that project to come to an end. So that was for the Torbank tank, which is in the town. That was for the Lakeville tank that was in the town. We put mixers and pumps in there and exhaust systems. And then obviously the big Pleasantville Road tank. The last thing I was going to talk about is the next proposal, but if you want to wait until we go farther in the agenda, that's fine.
I think you could talk about it a little bit. This is for our CDBG grant that we got for the upgrades to the senior nutrition program kitchen at the community center, which is going to be happening in concert with some upgrades to the community center, which the village is undertaking. So Andy's been helping us out with those, both at the beginning and now we're in the middle. And we just recently got a proposal from our new architect, Nexus. So if you want to take it from there, if that's enough of a lead in for you, go ahead.
Sure. The village had hired Nexus, which is John Fry's company, along with Dennis Noskin, their partners. We used Dennis Noskin in the past, so we have a lot of confidence in him on a few projects. And John Fry is familiar, obviously, with the community center because he's a resident. So the village is undertaking a project to look at the best use of the community center and all the buildings. So it would be like the community center, it would be Village Hall, and eventually the operations center. And where Section 8 should be located, logistics, and where people can be best utilized. How traffic flows in the building with COVID, how to move people, how to bring the services to the first floor of Village Hall, and then how that would affect the community center. And I believe Victoria approached me a couple of months ago and said, we have that CDBG grant to redo the kitchen at the community center, which is owned by the town. And you guys did receive that grant. And she suggested, what about using John Fry's company, because it would be, economies of scale. Why have two separate architects working in the same building? That, you have the synergy and that kind of thing. So John Fry met with me and met with you guys and gave this proposal, which I think is a pretty good price. It's he's using an outside consultant that is like a kitchen expert of like on the more commercial side. And that makes sense, because my concern is how much experience does Nexus have with commercial kitchens? And that's like its own niche. And that's in this proposal. And I'm pretty happy to see that. I think the proposal is for $26,500, and that includes a little bit of construction management. And it makes a lot of sense.
Questions? Does anybody have any questions?
Do we have a timeline for that?
I don't know the timeline yet, because the next step is, although they're two separate projects, the village and the town, the next step is for Nexus to give the like a work session with the village board members to go over what their ideas and plans are. And then obviously, once John gets this contract, if you guys agree to sign it, I would get a timeline from him. I don't think it's going to take long, but I think it needs to go to you guys for the ultimate approval, because John had some ideas of like, and also Bill Garrison, of possibly using it as like a teaching area for to teach the community how to cook. And so like a lot of the use might change. So I don't have time.
Just if I can speak to that. I think that there's a consideration that after the senior nutrition program is completed using it, that there might be an opportunity for the soon-to-be youth bureau to run programs like a teaching kitchen or other things like that for our youth. So it seems to make good sense, as long as we would be able to clearly separate food and uses, that it wouldn't interfere with the senior program. And obviously we'd have to work out other details with the village if that were to happen, since right now that's not really how it's utilized. Although, again, it's utilized at night for meetings and things of that nature. It seems like it would make sense to, maximize the utility of the space, and it would be an improvement for everybody, theoretically. So we can work together on coming up with a solution to something that addresses our many multifaceted needs of our community center. I think they'll be win-win.
Okay. One thing I can say is like what John put in the proposal was, our team is prepared to work towards the initial design element within 2 weeks of the agreement approval, and they anticipate 4 weeks to facilitate and coordinate meetings, further development programs. So once they get into that point, assuming the agreement is implemented in June, late June, the procurement packages they expect by late September. So he said that the timeline is significantly influenced by the client team responsiveness and timely contributions, which I don't think is any issue with your board. I think it'll be fast, and it's not a huge project, but it's an expensive project because kitchens are expensive. It has to be done right.
And obviously we would have to figure out a plan for our seniors during the time that we need to relocate them. We do,
well,
here's a question.
if the village is looking at the building about what's going to be the highest, best use before we invest in a whole new kitchen, are they going to think that our senior program is the highest, best use? Have you heard anything back on that? I hate to build the kitchen. They go, you know, that's not where we think you should be.
The only thing that I have heard is that they might consider relocating the senior program upstairs, and that's something that the senior program would like very much. So as they're looking at the building more holistically, if they find that there's a better place to relocate to in the building to suit the needs of everybody, to best their building. I have not heard any consideration of finding another place for our seniors. Although I will say once again that during COVID, we did have an opportunity to think about that a little bit, and we do have some options, I believe, if that were to ever become a significant consideration for the village.
And I also think that this is, you know, really the main point of having the same firm working on both projects, because clearly there's going to be then a direct line of communication. You're talking to the same person who's sort of investigating both of these needs so that we can make sure that the investment that we make is a sound investment and suits the needs of both the town and the village and that building moving forward.
Exactly. That was my point.
Yes. Any other questions? Any projects? Andy, do you want to add anything to Pete's lift station, switches, generators conversation, or good?
I mean, Pete did a great job as far as implementing it with the contractors. My role was just to make sure it was bid correctly, it was the right equipment going out, it was engineered right with our electrical engineers. So it was a good team effort. Okay. And the town should be happy that they're not going to have any issues. We put high quality generators in, and the redundancy is so needed. So it's very successful.
These are the projects we don't like to talk about a lot. They happen to be expensive, but they are critical for protecting our infrastructure, protecting our water sources, protecting our environment, and also just making sure that people don't have to think about things that they do on a regular basis. So thank you for that. And I think with that, unless there's any other questions or comments from the town board, we can move into a thank you to our departmental reports and our thanks to Andy, thanks to Paul, thanks to Pete. And we can, Dale, did you want to say anything in this section? No, you're just here to comment on the bond resolution, right? We don't need anything from you. Okay. All right, moving on and off camera. I'm not sure. I don't think we need anything from you. Okay, so we're going to move into public comment on agenda items only. So the agenda items that are on for this evening, we will have public comment on any topic whatsoever towards the end of the meeting. But right now, we're just looking for if anybody has any comments on any of the agenda items coming up. If you would like to raise your virtual hand and be recognized, maybe from the public. The agenda items. Seeing none, we will move into our board resolutions with our Deputy Town Clerk, Martha Picasaca.
Okay, approval of minutes, regular meeting, May 25th, 2021. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the amended May 25th, 2021 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Approval of minutes, special meeting, June 1st, 2021. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the June 1st, 2021 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Approval of minutes, regular meeting, June 8th, 2021. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the June 8th, 2021 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? No. Okay.
Approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated June 21st, 2021 in the amount of $339,295.31.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Personnel appointment court attendant. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin appoints Raymond Mena Yonkers to the part-time position of court attendant in the town of Austin Justice Court at an hourly rate of $25 effective June 21st, 2021.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we have one vacancy in our roster for court attendant, and we are very happy to be filling it with Ray Mena, who already served in this capacity in other courts. And he is bilingual, which is super important in our court. Adding him to the roster doesn't cost the town any more in personnel costs. Our court just now has one more person to call in when they need a court attendant to work. So welcome, Ray. Discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Okay. Personnel promotion, office assistant, automated systems. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin promotes Patricia Bersuda Austin to the full-time probationary position of office assistant automated systems in the town of Austin senior nutrition program at a prorated annual salary of $51,031 effective June 21st, 2021.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
So at the end of the year, being 2020, we had some changes to our senior nutrition program with Kathy Asaro retiring and Lynn Muller stepping into the site manager role. We are super happy, as I say super already once, to be promoting Patricia Beresweta tonight to move into the office assistant role from her current role as a chauffeur. She's extremely capable, and we are excited to be promoting her to this position. Congratulations, Pat. Any comments, questions? And we're so happy that she's also meeting this evening, and that was so sweet of you to join us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resounding aye. Anybody opposed? Fantastic. Congratulations, Pat.
Okay. Personnel resignation court attendant. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin accepts with regret the resignation of Franklin Jackson Jr. from the position of court attendant in the town of Austin Justice Court effective June 29th, 2021.
Motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
So thankfully, even though we're accepting it with regret, this is temporary. Franklin Jackson Jr., a familiar face to many Austin residents through his role with the Village of Austin Police Department and Town Court, will be retiring from his day job with the village at the end of this month. Per New York State retirement system rules, he also needs to be temporarily off the role completely from any of his public employment positions, which means also with the town. So he's got to be off for at least one day. I think he's going to be off for maybe 3 or 4 days. We look forward to welcoming him back in July, just a few days after he's officially off the books. And thank you, Franklin, for your many years of service to the Austin community, and at least a few more good months till you make your official movement out of state. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Okay. Donation New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin accepts a $1,000 donation from New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital Community Initiatives Program for the town of Austin Senior Nutrition Program.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
So we are so grateful to New York Presbyterian Hospital for their generous donation and continued partnership with the town. They have been really great partners with the town for many years, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, as they helped eligible town staff secure vaccines earlier in the year. So thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Letter of intent, Westchester County Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining authorizes the supervisor to sign a letter of intent dated June 11th, 2021 for the town of Austining to participate in the Westchester County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
So Westchester County is in the process of updating its hazard mitigation plan. The town participated in the original plan, although we adopted it kind of late, but in time, so that we could finalize that one and get ready for this next one. So we look forward to participating in this update, which was slightly delayed due to COVID, and will address a more wide range of hazards this time round, from environmental hazards to cybersecurity and just about everything in between. Thank you so much to the county for allowing municipalities to participate in this process again and coordinating with us for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Contract amendment, Pace University. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining authorizes the supervisor to sign a contract amendment between the town and Pace University, extending the contract end date from June 30th, 2021 to December 30th, 2021 for services relating to the town of Austining Healthy Communities Initiative.
Motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
So we are continuing to work with Pace Land Use Law Center on the comprehensive plan and the subsequent close evaluation of North State Road. As we are allowing the comp plan process to help inform the North State Road project, process is taking a bit longer than originally expected, so we need to extend our existing contract date by another few months. Questions? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Contract Nexus Creative. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining authorizes the supervisor to sign an agreement with Nexus Creative, Tarrytown, New York for the design, development, contract documents, and construction administration for the renovation of the community center kitchen at a proposed fee of $26,500, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So the town received CDBG funds last year, as mentioned, to support the renovation of the senior nutrition program kitchen. Also, as mentioned, the first step is to secure an architectural firm to get to work on this design. As mentioned, Nexus Creative is also working on a corresponding project at the community center with the Village of Austining, so we are glad to be in sync with this project, and I believe this came in a little bit lower than original estimates as well, so that's also good news. Any further questions or discussion about this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Fee schedule, rental of Lewis Engle Park Spray Park. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby adopts the following fee schedule for the rental of the Lewis Engle Park Spray Park. Rental of Lewis Engle Park Spray Park, $75 per hour.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So the town recently received a request from an organization that is partnering with county and other, has funding from some other sources that wanted to rent the spray park during some of the off hours for some summer camp opportunities. Our comptroller Dale Brennan developed an estimate of how much water usage costs per hour at the park. Not easy calculation, but our Dale Brennan did it, of course. He had no doubt in about 5 minutes, even though she said she couldn't, but then she did. This fee is based on that estimate plus an allowance for general wear and tear. We hope this will be a good opportunity for more Austining children to enjoy this great park asset while accounting for the cost of use to the town. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Okay. Stormwater Facilities Maintenance Agreement, SPC of Westchester Incorporated. Whereas as a condition of the site plan approval granted by Planning Board, SPCA of Westchester Incorporated is required to enter into a stormwater facilities maintenance agreement with the town to ensure the stormwater management system approved by the Planning Board is constructed and installed by the applicant in accordance with the approved project documents and all applicable New York State DEC regulations, standards, and guidelines for the project, and thereafter is maintained, cleaned, repaired, replaced, and restored in perpetuity by the applicant to ensure optimum performance, and now therefore be resolved, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute a stormwater management system maintenance and easement agreement with SPCA of Westchester Incorporated, and be it further resolved, the supervisor authorized to sign all documents reasonably necessary to have the agreement recorded with the county clerk.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we're so excited that the SPCA of Westchester is close to finishing the construction of their new facility. And as we start to tie up loose ends, they do need to enter into an agreement with the town as it relates to the maintenance of the stormwater facilities. So Donna, do you have anything else to add?
No, it's pretty straightforward. The board did this a few weeks ago with Park Knowles. It's standard for any development that they enter into a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town. It's certainly no obligation on the part of the town. It's obligations on the part of the property owner and developer that will be recorded with the county clerk so that it's on record in perpetuity, ensuring that the stormwater facilities are always maintained and kept in good condition, and giving the town potential remedies if that is not adhered to.
So, questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. CDBG application 2022 to 2024 cycle, Lewis Angle Park bathroom relocation, phase 1. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin endorses the community development block grant CDBG application entitled Lewis Angle Park bathroom relocation phase 1 at a total project cost of $145,000, with $72,500 requested from the CDBG program and $72,500 provided as a local match by the town of Austin.
I think I heard Councilman Meyer motion.
Sorry, baby crying.
Okay.
Apologize.
Okay. Okay. All right. And any questions or further discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
CDBG application 2022 to 2024 cycle, Lewis Angle Park bathroom relocation phase 2. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin endorses the community development block grant CDBG application entitled Lewis Angle Park bathroom relocation phase 2 at a total project cost of $575,000, with a $287,500 requested from the CDBG program and a $287,500 provided as a local match by the town of Austin.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
So I think I did. I summed up all before. I just didn't give a good shout out to Valerie Monastra for helping us develop these plans earlier. So I just wanted to make sure I did that. And she's helping us make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row for seeker and everything else for these grant applications for CDBG. So we're very appreciative of that and her understanding of what is doable for CDBG, what we can apply for, and also how we can structure it so that we can hopefully attain the grant funding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, so are we on?
Okay.
I have a question about the next one, I think. I forgot to ask.
Sorry, there was an ant in my room. Sorry.
Okay.
CDBG application 2022 to 2024 cycle, Lewis Angle Park Fishing Pier Rehabilitation. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin endorses a community development block grant CDBG application entitled Lewis Angle Park Fishing Pier Rehabilitation at a total project cost of $300,000, with $150,000 requested from the CDBG program and $150,000 provided as a local match by the town of Austin.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Question.
Discussion.
And I think Paul and Andy are still here. Are we anticipating any trouble with the Army Corps of Engineers or the DEC connecting those, and will that make it much more expensive?
Andy, are you on still, or Paul? Either one of you? You there?
I think Andy will be getting back on. Fortunately, I wasn't down there when they were scoping out the extent of the dock fishing pier extension. However, just generally speaking, I think that number is inclusive of that approval and the necessary administration prior to installation.
Yeah, I do believe Dan Ciarcia consulted a company that frequently constructs these type of piers and docks and things like that on the Hudson River. So the number that was provided to us, like Paul said, is inclusive of that. And they believe the scope that they're recommending that we apply for will, because of the way that it's situated on the riprap and connecting something that's existing, that we should be in fairly good shape to kind of keep those costs down and those hurdles down.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
CDBG application 2022 to 2024 cycle, bathroom at north end of Lois Angle Park. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining endorses a community development block grant CDBG application entitled bathroom at north end of Lois Angle Park at a total project cost of $150,000, $75,000 requested from the CDBG program and $75,000 provided as a local match by the town of Austining.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Fantastic. Thank you all for those four.
Okay. Memorandum of Understanding, Westchester County Climate Action Planning Institute. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining authorizes the supervisor to sign a memorandum of understanding with Westchester County, the cities of Peekskill and White Plains, the villages of Irvington, Austining, Pelham, and Tarrytown, in the Hudson Valley Regional Council Incorporated, for the town to participate as a partner in the Westchester County Climate Action Planning Institute and participate in a project funded by a grant from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So in 2019, the town signed on to a grant application with Westchester County, some partner municipalities who you've heard, and the Hudson Valley Regional Economic Council in order to participate in the Westchester County Climate Action Planning Institute, which will help all participating municipalities complete an updated climate action plan. The town will be providing some in-kind support for staff and volunteers as part of this project. We're very excited to get this project started. It was obviously delayed because of COVID. Questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Finance Capital Project number 2021-5230, 2021 parking lot and road paving town parks. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining authorizes opening a 2021 capital project number 2021-5230 entitled 2021 parking lot and road paving parks for the town parks department with a project budget of $160,612 for paving at Gerlach and Cedar Lane Parks. The project will be funded from debt obligations.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So our last two resolutions relate to two capital improvement projects in our parks for paving the Gerlach Park entry and parking lot and the road leading to the dog park at Cedar Lane Park. Our comptroller advised that we borrow for these projects to the tune of $160,612 as the quoted price for the combined projects. Before we vote and read the next resolution, Comptroller Dale Brennan is here with us. Is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Supervisor Leavenworth. Good night. Good night. Good evening, Town Board. I feel like it's good night now. We are going to do basically a 5-year band borrow on this because it is a small amount. And essentially what happens with the town is that we'll have the reval ban will be dropping off after this year. And so this ban payment will cover, essentially take away half of what we're paying for the reval. So it's basically a wash. And instead of spreading it out over 10 years, which we could have done, it's just better for this amount to pay it off in the 5. And then with this, because it's under the 5-year, 5-year or under limit, as well as being under $500,000, we can, once the board, if they so choose to approve it, we can basically have immediate no time lapse and can start actually working on these two projects. So.
Fantastic. Any questions or discussion?
Does that include the Mogo pit?
That's already done. No.
I mean the you know what I mean.
Yeah, that was already completed.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
We had a balance left actually in that original project to do that piece of the paving. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
More questions? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, and then I read the entire resolution next. Okay. A resolution authorizing the issuance of $160,612 bonds of the town of Austining, Westchester County, New York, to pay the cost of various purpose in and for said town. Be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the town board of the town of Austining, Westchester County, New York, as follows. Section 1. The following is hereby authorized in and for the town of Austining, Westchester County, New York. A. Paving of the Gerlich Park parking lot / driveway at a total maximum estimate cost of $32,362, being a specific object or purpose having a period of probable usefulness of 10 years pursuant to subdivision 20F of paragraph A of section 11 of the local finance law, and B, paving of the road in Cedar Lane leading to the dog park at a maximum estimated cost of $128,250, being a specific object or purpose having a period of probable usefulness of 15 years pursuant to subdivision 20C of paragraph A of section 11 of the local finance law. Section 2. The total maximum estimated cost of the aforesaid objects or purpose is $160,612, and the plan for the financing thereof is by the issuance of 160,612 bonds of said town hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the local finance law to be allocated in accordance with the maximum estimated cost set forth in section 1 hereof. Section 3. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the bonds herein authorized will not exceed 5 years. Section 4, SEQR determination. It is hereby determined that the everybody okay? Good? Okay. SEQR determination. It is hereby determined that the aforesaid purposes constitute a type 2 action as defined under regulations of the state of New York promulgated under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which by definition will not have a significant adverse impact upon the environment. Section 5. The faith and credit of said town of Austining, Westchester County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest of such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. There shall annually be levied on all the taxable real property in said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same become due and payable. Section 6. Subject to provisions of the local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of the bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the supervisor of said town, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, forms, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 7. All other matters except as provided herein relating to the bonds herein authorized, including the date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, within the limitations prescribed herein and the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue bonds with sustainably level of declining annual debt service shall be determined by the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bonds shall contain substantially the cited validity clause provided for in section 52 of the local finance law and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals, in addition to those required by section 51 of the local finance law, as the supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 8, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if 1, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, or 2, the provisions of law which should be compiled with at the date of publication of this resolution are now substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 9, this resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulation Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or are reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object on purpose described herein. Section 10, upon this resolution taking place, the same shall be published in summary form in the official newspaper of said town, designated for such purpose, together with a notice of the town clerk in substantially the form provided in Section 81 of the local finance law. And Section 11, this resolution should take effect immediately.
Ada. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so before we go on, I just thought we need to have our engineer, Alfredo, maybe you could comment a little bit on this project since it was going to be a large project. Town Parks.
So I spoke to your Parks Foreman, Mario Velardo, regarding these two projects, both of which were scoped last year. The Gerlach Park project was started last year. This will be the completion of that work. And the second project is the roadway from the newly paved portions of Cedar Lane Park up to the dog park. That project was also scoped last year, but we utilized the newly awarded annual bid contractor to reestablish the up-to-date cost. It really didn't change that much from when they scoped it out last year because the annual bids didn't increase that much. But just to give an idea of the Cedar Lane Park, which is the more significant project, larger project, I should say, it's basically going to take away those gutters that you had on either side of the road and create a wider lane, but not really create any more impervious surface, which is a good thing. It's also going to better channel the surface water into the stormwater system, which is also a good thing, which will prevent erosion along the roadway there and make for a nicer trip up with your dog to that area of the park, and really be, give it a little more continuity to that area relative to everything else in the park, which is a nice area to drive around now because everything was freshly paved a couple of years ago now, I guess it was, when you guys opened up the Arts Center. So those will be the majority of that price was based on the per ton cost of the bituminous concrete, and the Cedar Lane Park in particular has a heavy labor component. So there was some labor added on to that per ton cost as well.
Any questions? All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I think we should do this by a roll call vote just because it does require a 2/3 majority.
100%. Go.
Okay, Councilmember Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Meyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Feldman,
Aye.
Supervisor Levenberg.
Aye.
Correspondence to be received and filed. Resolved that the town board of the town of Boston hereby accepts the following correspondence. Town planning board minutes, May 19th, 2021.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Monthly reports. Resolved that the town board of the town of Boston hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of May 2021. Dale Cemetery.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. With that, we are at visitor recognition on any topic whatsoever. And we do have an attendee still remaining in our public portion. If you would like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand and we will recognize you. And we do have somebody. So
okay. Mr. Blatt, I'm going to allow you to talk. You will just have to unmute yourself and then the board will be able to hear you.
Okay, hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'd like to thank the town board for their service as always. Just referring to an earlier comment early in the meeting from Supervisor Levenberg about civic participation. and specifically the Juneteenth holiday, and the power that individuals possess when they put their talents to use. I speak specifically of Miss Opal Lee, who made that holiday happen and ratify, and also Miss Jane Jacobs, who saved the village in New York City, moved to Toronto, tried to retire. The citizens pulled her out of retirement to save a park that's here. Now there's a walk, or sorry, in Toronto, now there's a walk in her name. So, you know, it comes with high competence and dedication when these folks make these things happen, and it's to the betterment of everyone. So just wanted to mention that, and thank you for your time.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments. And we greatly appreciate them. And thank you so much for participating in our meeting and staying on till the bitter end. Also appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Anything else? Is that it? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please do remember that there is a Democratic primary tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Next week is the 5th Tuesday of the month. So our next board meeting will be Tuesday, July 6th. As of right now, remote meetings are allowed by executive order through July 5th. So we are awaiting updates from the governor regarding remote meetings, as many other COVID restrictions have been lifted. We will keep you posted. We will share if our July 6th meeting will be held remotely or in person, depending upon what we hear from the governor. We did hear an anticipation from the county this afternoon. They do believe that that's going to be extended yet again. Please do stay tuned. Either way, I look forward to seeing everyone on July 6th. I hope everyone has a great few weeks and a very, very happy Independence Day. And please be safe. If you haven't already done so, get vaccinated. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.